You are listening to Arts on the Air, a bi-weekly-ish interview show dedicated to Savannah, Georgia's artists, musicians, and authors. Each episode will feature a guest in conversation about their philosophy, practice, and current projects, as well as their thoughts on the state of the arts in our community of Savannah. Our theme music is a clip of Summer Nights by the Eric Jones Trio. It's provided by our friend Mark Chesanow, who plays with the Eric Jones Trio. Hey everyone, welcome to Arts on the Air. This is Tamara Garvey, and I have the pleasure of sitting with musician Mandy Madson today. Welcome, Mandy.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody.
So excited to talk to you. And I'm going to read a little bit from your website. So you're part of a duo called Andy and Mandy with your brother, Andrew Sovine. Is he your brother, or is it like a White Stripes brother?
I mean, he's not my blood brother. Okay. We like to say he's not my blood brother. He's my chosen brother.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
I know his mom and sister. They know. They know the situation. I always wanted a brother, so I just decided to choose.
That's very sweet.
And I think we just kind of knew we share so much in common, not just culturally in our interests, but both of us living in two completely different worlds, like Savannah and then Nashville, East Tennessee, and we had this kindred bond of having shared a lot of life experiences with outside of us actually sharing them together.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of made our worlds easier because we were like, oh, well, we already know all the same people and now we know each other and now we can just share both of these worlds together. So
it was parallel growing up. I like that. Okay, your chosen brother.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So that your description from your site is you're a brother-sister duo bringing lowbrow country to the low country, which I love.
Thank you. I wrote that.
Super clever, verbally. How would you define the difference between lowbrow country or highbrow country?
I definitely think, we say a lot of, we're very much, maybe too much ourselves during this. We really riff off of each other and we try to have the humor can be a little more crass, and dirty sometimes, or, and just really us getting to really be ourselves during that time instead of trying to be, I've had a whole life doing opera and musical theater and having to be this very professional person. Yeah. And so it's really funny that we can really play into that part of the stereotype of country music of just it being a little more crass, you know?
Your little body.
So I went with lowbrow laughs,
That's really great. Yeah. Is it set pattern that you do, or does it just come?
No, it just comes up, and we've talked for years about wanting to do an official show, a radio show or something, where we're maybe we should be writing jokes or something, because right now we're just improvising them, and but we just really play well off of
I
each
could see
other.
You guys putting on a show at Front Porch Improv, a hee-haw kind of
exactly
show.
That's kind of the idea. Funny enough, he actually played Front Porch last night. He was the secret show for Savannah Music Festival, and so they had a secret after party after Leftover Salmon, and so he played that, and then I did a couple songs with him.
That's perfect. Well, you guys obviously that should be your first of many.
we love our French friends are there.
Yeah,
so,
that's a nice size also.
Mm-hmm.
Size venue.
It was a really fun venue last night, and even Vince Herman from Leftover Salmon showed up. I love him. I love his solo stuff. So it was really cool that he showed up too, and it was a fun time.
Does the Music Fest always do a secret? Is it a one-time secret show? Or?
They do a couple secret shows, and sometimes it'll be the artists, from the festival. Andrew right now is part of their songwriting program, so that's I think one of the reasons, and also Mary Dugas on the board, and they have Savannah Music Collective together, and so I think that was kind of the connection, and he's also been writing a lot more songs lately. I don't want to say any of his secrets, but he's been writing a lot. Yeah, he's been writing a lot more,
cool.
songs with lyrics. He does a lot of instrumental stuff out there, but he's been writing a lot more singer-songwriter style things lately. So it was cool that he
Thanks for
share.
You to sing.
Yeah, he shared a lot of that last night too, and I sang an original too that I wrote. It was a duet. Yeah. So it was really cool. It was half the show was originals, which was really different. Yeah, for us.
Really growing for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned, I wanted to talk about this anyway. You mentioned that you'd started out as an opera singer, and I saw on one of your sites that you'd sung at Carnegie Hall. and you kind of debuted in Savannah at some point. You had an opera debut as a soprano in a Gilbert and Sullivan opera.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me about your early... I know you have a degree in music.
Yeah, so my degree is in vocal music education, but, like, I was, like, basically, I had a performance degree, but I didn't take a language. But also, I went to Brewton-Parker College, which is, like, a really small school near Vidalia, Georgia. It's not even in Vidalia. Like, it's near. Like, there's one stoplight.
In the suburbs of the bustling metropolis of Vidalia.
And I went there because my sister was living in Atlanta, and I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and it was, like, dead center, and I wanted to, like, see my sister. You know, it was, like,
nice.
Yeah. And I could have gone anywhere in Florida for a full ride because at the time they had really bright futures and it was like so good, you know.
But you really want to be close to your sister.
But I wanted to my parents were going through divorce. I just like kind of wanted to get away, and I chose like this tiny Baptist school, and they gave me a full ride. That was the other reason I went. I did a scholarship competition, and because I had gone to like an arts high school. Like I went to like the top music school in the country, Douglas Anderson School for the Arts. So like I had been like doing art songs in school, you know, like studying. Yeah,
you already.
It was already a part of my life. So like I did the competition and won, and there weren't a lot of kids, you know, auditioning for. Like they had such an amazing program. Like I mean the director for the National Association of Teachers of Singing was my voice teacher there. Like, it was insane, the caliber, you know, that was in it. So it really drew a lot of people in. And so I won the scholarship competition. And I'm always somebody that's like, if it's easy, it's probably what you should be doing sometimes. Like, if it's just falling in your lap, it's probably the path you should take. And so I just did it. Because my other option was I was going to, like, UF for teaching English.
Okay. And it would be an enormous school. It's a really different experience.
Yeah, and I didn't want to be around Greek life. I don't know. Yeah. So I chose this tiny school. I had a really weird college experience, but I had a really beautiful music education. But it was really hard to get a music education degree there in 4 years. I think in the history of the school, I still might be the only person that ever did it, because it was like, it's such a big degree. It's like 2 degrees there.
Wow, you know, so many required classes.
Yeah. And honestly, it was the observation hours you had to do on top of that.
Yeah.
You know, and like this was a school that required you to take physics of music. I think it's the only school in Georgia or maybe in the South that required you to take physics of music. And it was a really cool class.
So people want a really rigorous musical education degree.
I took like 21 hours one semester, and 3 of my classes were not even in those credits. Like, it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, and if I'm remembering college, I feel like average is you're taking usually between like 14 and 18 credits a semester. Yeah,
and they actually ended the music department my last semester. So I had to graduate then, or I would have had to transfer to shorter university and done an entire extra year and paid for it. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So, like, I mean, it was, like, life or death to get my degree done. Because after that, like, the year after that, they were going to lose the accreditation for the degree program. So I was like, I want my degree accredited. And so, actually, it was me and 2 other people that were the last 3 music grads of the school.
Oh, my gosh.
And one of them is Jared Register, who's the chorus teacher at Savannah Arts Academy. He's one of my best friends in the world. It's so funny.
Well, you went through this together.
Yeah, I know. You know, he has his doctorate. He's teaching at SAA. But so that's like where I started. And
what were you singing like when you were in high school and then you auditioned to get in? Were you singing opera, or was it like musical
art songs?
Kind of stuff?
Art songs, which is like classical. You know, it's like not quite an aria. You know, baby arias. You know, it's like a good way of describing it. I think I sang a German song. I think I sang a French foray song. And then I sang this really famous interpretation of the Lord's Prayer, because I had to sing it I got hired to sing it all the time. And so, like, I was like, singing that.
This is while you were in college, you were being hired to sing this? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Like, for, like, you know, like, for churches or things like that. I mean, even now.
Were you just making the rounds of churches singing this song on Sundays?
No, but I did that after college. Okay. That definitely happened in Savannah.
I imagine downtown where there's a church on every square. What if you just have to run from church to church singing?
That is Christmas Eve. Like, if you're a classical singer, Christmas Eve is like, okay, I gotta sing this, you know, service at the Mass, and then I'm gonna run over to the Episcopalian church, and like it's happened. I've had to like drive all the way to Skidaway and then come back downtown. I've had this, but that's how you pay for Christmas gifts, you know. But yeah, so I did that. I went to school, and I got an opera education there. If I could have stayed longer and just taken 2 Spanish classes, I could have gotten a vocal performance degree too. But I did that, and I really thought I wanted to be an opera singer, but there's different like voice classifications. They're called Fachs, and is that a German word? It's a German word, yeah. And so like the 2 biggest for like sopranos, I'm a soprano, are coloratura and lyric. Coloratura being people who do like lots of runs, very show off, you know, style. Would that be like Celine Dion? Oh man, I guess she would be. Doesn't she? Or Mariah Carey? Mariah Carey. Trilly? Yeah, okay. Mariah Carey is definitely a soubrette. And then a lyric is somebody who can do like more, like you can sustain a high note quietly. You can tell a story. I like to consider them more the storytellers. They're not trying to show off. They're trying to tell a story with their voice to me. And I was a classification called a soubrette, which is like an underdeveloped, and there's not a lot of lead roles for soubrettes. And that's not something that changes over time. You become a light coloratura or a light lyric eventually. And you get like a lot of little parts, not a lot of leads. And at that time, you know, I was just pretty emotionally mature and like thought I wanted to be the star of everything, you know, kind of a thing. And I don't know. It was a lot of work too, and so much pressure. And I eventually, like, I stopped doing things. I had really bad perfectionism. I grew up with a stage mom. I love her. I'm thankful for all the opportunities she put in my life, but I was like a party trick for my parents. And it was a lot of pressure, and I developed a lot of perfectionism. Like for you to get up in parties and sing, kind of? No, like I say like a party trick. It was like what my parents bragged about. Okay. You know, it was like the thing they, you know, they were like real. I mean, I sang Carnegie Hall the first time when I was in 2nd grade, I think. 2nd or 3rd grade. Wow. And like... Through your big music school that you grew up? Well, no, I was in the Jacksonville Children's Choir. Okay. And so, which is like Savannah Children's Choir, but like massive. Yeah. You know? You went to Carnegie Hall. Yeah. Crazy. I mean, yeah. And I was doing crazy stuff even as a kid, like performing in shows, you know, in musicals, like doing like big, like pretty big stuff. And and then I was a ballroom dancer too, even through like high school, middle school, high school. I was like competing in ballroom. So there was like a lot of, I felt, you know, and I loved performing, and my parents loved that I performed. There was probably a lot of vicariously living through me kind of a thing. Yeah. And so there was just a lot of pressure throughout my young. And so if you went into the opera track, it would be very, like a lot of eyes on you. This was one of the reasons I kind of quit was like I noticed psychologically that when I had a big thing coming up, I would start losing my voice, or I'd get sick. I would make myself sick. Yeah. And I'd just be so scared I was going to lose my voice because I had so much congestion, and I was like going and getting steroids and taking all these drugs, and like my whole, like psychosomatic. Yeah, almost. It was totally psychosomatic, and I was like, maybe I'm not actually happy doing this stuff. Maybe it is like too much pressure. And like one of the reasons I like fell into country music was I just was like, wow, one, it's very rare for people, I think because I was a soubrette, it's rare for a lot of opera singers to also become belters. But I was like in the musical theater world too, and I had a really my amazing voice teacher from college, Candy Curley Smith, she had really getting this certification in teaching belting and teaching it to me. and I never thought I could belt, you know, like I was like,
I love this term called belting.
Yeah, it's like, it's, you know, it's like when you're using your chest voice to sing, it's more of like your instead of your you know. Okay. So
it's like being on a stage and reaching the back row, kind of.
No, I mean, that's kind of where it comes from, like the big belters, like, you know, Ethel Merman, you know, like those like big belters, but like it's really just using your chest voice, and now the industry standard is more like using your mix, which is like a mix between your head and chest. But
so interesting.
I know. So
like the parts of your body is evolving over time as people learn things.
Yeah, I think of them as dimensions of your voice.
Wow.
I like to think of it as dimensional singing, but she was so great at teaching me that towards the end, like after my senior recital, and I got into that, and I was like lucky that I was good at that because it made it easier to like leave opera and do other styles.
There was a different direction to go into.
Yeah, like it made it easier to do musical theater and get gigs doing that.
So when was this after you graduated? This is when you're thinking this, or is this getting toward the end of your degree? You're imagining. I mean, what direction you're going into?
No, I still wanted to do opera and stuff after I graduated college. I was supposed to go to actually get my master's in music theater, which is like doing opera and musical theater. I wanted to do both of those things. And I was supposed to there's only like a handful of music theater programs in the United States, and one was at UCF, at their theater conservatory in Orlando. And I'd been studying with the great Nick Wehrman there, and like driving down to Orlando, taking voice lessons with him. I loved that man. He's so amazing. But the state pulled the funding for the program. So then like I didn't have like a master's program to go to.
Oh man.
They pulled it like right before I graduated my undergrad.
These crazy timings with these university systems.
So it just kind of happened, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go into teaching. Because I got this teaching degree.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy to think how much just like avenues of your life that change just based on one dumb thing that happens.
And I didn't grow up like I did not grow up in I grew up in a lower middle class family, you know, like my parents, especially towards the end of like high school, my parents were really struggling to make ends meet. Like I kind of quit ballroom dancing because I lost my teacher, my instructor. He quit teaching or he moved away. That was it. He moved away, and I couldn't find another instructor I really liked, and it became too expensive, and it was like really hard to find benefactors to like fund my dancing and competing. Yeah. And because
people don't think about those kind of things, that there's like the lessons, the costumes, and then driving to go to different venues. Maybe there's an entry fee to be in these things.
I mean, it costs thousands of dollars to do a competition, so I was like having benefactors in order to do this. You know, the dress alone is like $1,300, you know, so you can only like compete in like 5 times.
Yeah, you never really think about stuff like that.
You'd be renting things. Yeah, it's definitely not, it was a really expensive sport. And you know, so like my parents were getting a divorce, things were really tough, and so I've been like financially on my own since I was 17, and so a lot of my decisions have kind of revolved around that, because I think I probably would have gone to New York and tried to do musical theater, but I just really was tired of being poor.
The sun is shining, come on, get happy. The Lord is waiting to take your hand.
And I wanted
something steady.
I wanted to like enjoy my life, so I wanted a job that allowed me to like enjoy my life. And that was just emotionally where I was when I graduated college. Yeah. I was like, I just want to make money so I can have fun and do fun things.
When is it? So the opera that you did in Savannah, when does that fall into all this?
That was like so I got a job in Effingham County in Rincon. Worst year of my life. But I did do an opera at Asbury Memorial Theater. Yeah. And like that's how I met Jamie Smith Arkins at the audition, my longest friend in Savannah.
One of the biggest musical supporters in Savannah.
One of truly my best friends, longest friends in Savannah. I love that woman to death. That we met, she was at the auditions, like, because she's a member at
Really?
Asbury, like, helping check everybody in.
Oh my gosh. And this was a Gilbert and Sullivan opera?
Yeah, it was The Mikado. It's not one of our proudest moments because of the appropriation of Asian culture in that opera.
Is this particular opera just not really performed much anymore?
I think because of the appropriation, it's a hilarious... I think, we shouldn't have done Yellow Facing. It was 15 years ago. It was so different. Yeah. But, like, it's such a great opera, and there's so much, like, history around it. And that's not criticism towards anybody that, like, Billy Hester directed that, and he did an amazing job. It's just, like, it was just a different world. It would be different now. Yeah, it would be different now. It's a hilarious musical. Jonathan Rabb was in that show. I was supposed to get married to him. Oh. In the show. and that was how we met, and he is truly, to me, I think, Savannah's best actor. Yeah. He's the funniest, and he had rewritten his big song in that show to, like, fit modern times, and he's a fantastic, he's obviously a fantastic writer. He's a published author, and it was a really huge treat to be part of that, because I think that was going to be one of the few times in my life outside of college I was going to have a lead role in an opera, because I just didn't have that kind of fop,
So this, like, the soprano role for this opera was the particular type of soprano that you were, basically? Yeah. Okay.
So it was like it was an honor to be able to do that, because I was like, well, this will be it for lead roles.
How many performances did you do for
We did like 2 or 3 weekends. It was long, I remember,
Do you remember, did you have stage fright at all? How was it for you?
I had a little bit of stage fright, I think, during my solo and things like that. I've never really struggled from a lot of stage fright, and I think that's just because I've been doing it for so long. Mm-hmm. And I'm more of an instrumentalist in a lot of my, like, gig mentality, where I'm just like, I'm just here to get this job done and to do a good job and to have fun with my friends, and, like, are we going and getting a drink after this? You know, like, whereas, like, I think there's a lot of, like, what I call the kumbaya in the vocal world, in the musical theater world, and the theater world, where it's like, we're having this shared experience, and, like, I don't subscribe to that as much. I'm like, I'm there for the camaraderie, but it's a very different, like, kind of like, all right, we're going out and getting drinks after this, right? I think
is that a little more of like a rock band performer kind of thing than being a typical musical theater person?
I think so. I think that set me up for being more of a band person.
So funny,
like that mentality, and because, like, especially, like, with my band now, like Dylan and Jalen and Andrew and even Susanna, it's like it's my, like, even, I mean, I won't say this about Susanna, but, like, this is my brothers, like, like, I feel like
she's your brother too.
Yeah, she's my sister. It's like, we're like, there's, like,
these are all the people in Andy and Mandy.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, Susanna's not, but she played last night, and she's in the fold, she's in the, I guess, Andrew's cult, and so I'm like, there's, like, my brothers, like, I feel like that more kind of a camaraderie about things, and so I think that sometimes takes away some of the stage fright of just, like, it's just a different mentality of, like, I'm just getting it done and going to do my best and hopefully have fun doing it and trying to connect with the audience. And maybe I'm just speaking now from I've been through a lot of therapy for my perfectionism. And as a teacher, I really think a lot about especially voice, I only really take students who need to work on emotional things in addition to to vocal things, because it's healing for me, and, like, I also really want the next generation as a teacher to not struggle with perfectionism the way I did. Because it can be debilitating. And, you know, I would get the performance done in the moment. I'd get it done. But, like, everything leading up to that was so much anxiety of, like, trying to control it and make it perfect.
Yeah.
You know, and then
so it wasn't, like, an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. And now I'm like, no, I don't make music for the ego purpose. I make it to connect and to share things with people. And I think that was another reason I probably left, like, the opera musical theater world was, like,
that does seem like everybody would be a perfectionist, and that you'd have to take care of your voice so diligently.
Which I still do, but you know,
what are some cool? So I talked to Cyril Durant a few weeks ago, and he actually had started as an opera singer. He's amazing. I actually cast him when I was at Garrison. We directed a few operas and musicals. John Tisbert and I did, and we did Amal and the Night Visitors twice because I played Amal in Amal and the Night Visitors in college. That's a Menotti opera about a boy who's disabled, who the three wise men visit him on Christmas Eve on the way to see Jesus, right? And I played Amal. I played the little boy in college, and John Tisbert, my old co-teacher and bestie, he had played two of the different kings. So we directed it. It was the first show we directed together, and it was the last show we directed. So we did it every 3 years. And for the last one, Cyril played one of the kings. I got him. And Jared Register, he played one of the kings too. It was really cool. Great, it was really, like, lovely experience of, like, we would cast adults to play with the kids, like, in the adult role. So the kids got the experience of, like, being in a show with professionals and learning from those professionals. Like, they were really taking seriously and everything. Yeah. And so, and then the shows with big choir parts, so the choir could be a part of it. And he's such an amazing singer. So, he was great. And he talked some about, like, exercises he does with his voice, maybe on the way to a gig.
Always.
So I was curious, what are some things you like to do?
Well, in teaching voice, I'm big on, like, you start with lip trills. Lip trills are like, right? And, like, I have a very long lip trill I do. It's great for breath. It's great for, like, letting your voice do something without having to do too much yet, you know, because it's about scaffolding. You're stretching your muscles. Warm-ups are like body warm-ups. It's the same thing. Like, you're not going to go run a marathon without stretching. Yeah. Warm-ups are stretching. You're stretching your soft palate, you're stretching your lungs, your diaphragm, all those things. And so I think a lot of people have, like, there's, like, kind of a stigma in like Cyril's in our other world of, like, rock and roll or country that, like, you don't warm up your voice, and you're like, no, like, you need to do that. Like, like, it's like real rock people are like, no, sorry, we don't need to warm it up. Like, I was just at South by Southwest and saw this amazing artist that I've been dying to see, Warrenton. And I could tell his voice was hoarse, and I was like, go home and take some ibuprofen, but you need to warm up before your next show. And he was like, I know, nobody ever talks about this. People should be talking about this in this world. Yeah. Nobody talks about it in this world.
Is it like it's not macho to be doing something like that?
I think it's just, like, not taught, and it's something I've told Savannah Music Collective, you know, Andrew and Mary to go up, and, like, I'd love to, like, just do a workshop where everybody comes and sings with me, and we talk about vocal warm-ups you can do before you do a show to help you with these things, because you want to practice your breathing and how you apply your breath. You want to stretch your soft palate, which is, you know, the palate in the back of your throat, and stretch that, because if you're belting in particular, I mean, not even just belting, your head voice too, it's really, like, the key thing for, you know, creating that big sound inside of, you know, your vocal mechanism that you're going to project out to everybody. And so so, like, starting with lip trills, I call them dirty little snitches, because it's going to show you everything you're doing wrong in your breathing. You know, like, if you can't make it through a lip trill, you're not applying your breath correctly, kind of a thing. And then I do a lot of stretching of my soft palate. I'll do it first through a nasal hum, which is like, ooh, and I'll do a lot of that up and down through, like, my entire, you know, range. Okay. And then sometimes I do a trick that I learned from Candy Curly Smith, Dr. Candy Curly Smith, which is, like, called a nasal hum little ooh, which is kind of like bridging your lip trills and that nasal hum, and then allowing your voice to finally, like, blossom through it
Huh.
with your, soft palate nice and raised. And then if I'm belting, I do my belting warm up. So
The kids must love going through the exercises too, because they're kind of just like making funny noises.
honestly, like, I think it's part of what is good about my particular approach as a voice teacher is that, like, and always through teaching, like even in elementary, I'm like, we're all doing silly things together. And I think sometimes doing this silly thing takes some of the scariness away. And maybe that's just for neurodivergent people like me, like where it's like, I have to say something really hard. I'm going to say it with a funny accent, so it's less hard. Yeah. So, like, I think it's like the same.
It's like a version of an emoji.
Yeah, you're like,
soften.
yeah, it's like, the vocal warm-up emoji. Where it's
that classic thing of you're saying something to somebody, it's a serious thing you're asking for, and you feel badly asking for it, so you put like LOL.
Yeah, exactly. You're like kind of doing something so ridiculous, and you kind of have to be really vulnerable in that moment, and that vulnerability is what's going to bring you two together. It's really what creates the best art is vulnerability, right?
I could see this would be nice. I could see you leading a workshop of adult musicians.
I know. I just want everybody. I'm like,
let's just all agree to do this silly thing together.
Yeah,
we're doing it together.
I want some rock and roll musicians to come and do some silly stuff with me, and just so that they have a place to start, And everybody's. I want teaching voice like. Comes from a place of I just really want everybody to do their best. Like, I'm just such a teacher in that way where, like, even my friends, I'm like, I just want you to be vocally singing your best. Like,
right.
I don't want it to be, it's not about ego or critique. Like, I care about you, and so I want to help care for you by caring for your voice, because I want you to be taking the best health care of of yourself, but also I want you sounding your best, because I believe in you so much, and I think you're so talented.
And each person has their range for themselves, so within what you can do, you can do your best.
We all have gifts, and I'm not saying I'm the best voice teacher. Like, I definitely need a master's. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know why I'm teaching voice. Like, I have major imposter syndrome.
I think
about
I already
it,
feel like that in whatever their job is.
Yeah. I like, there's such amazing voice, like Cyril's wife, Julian.
I keep hearing about her.
Julian's like the best. Oh my gosh.
Her.
I could say a million lovely things about her as a human, as a singer, as a voice teacher. But I'm like, she can talk about these things more than I can. She's her master's and she's so talented. But I really just I think it should just be more approachable, because I feel like everybody thinks it should just be classical music. And I'm like, no, like, it's not. It doesn't have to be that at all. Like, if you want to learn to be a good singer, it doesn't always have. Classical works for a reason, but it doesn't have to be
right. And nobody wants the next day to be sore and like to lose your voice because you sang in one show or something. Especially
if you're going to be touring,
right?
Like, you have got to learn to take better care of your voice.
That does seem like sort of a dirty little secret amongst the big rock bands that are touring, where we have this reputation of partying or whatever, that maybe you could get away with that in your 20s, but if you're going on for decades and decades, then you're having to live a much more austere lifestyle and gargling with salt water or something.
I mean,
taking care of it.
Today I feel rough, and I don't even drink on I only drink on Saturdays, and or whatever.
Oh, is that your life rule?
Yeah, that's like my new life rule for 2025.
Cool.
And I went to South by Southwest, and I made some exceptions that week, but for the most part, I try to only drink one day a week. But I stayed up till 1 yesterday. Didn't drink. Stayed up till 1. Today I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, just that. Yeah,
just that.
I guess if you're a teacher during the week, then I'm sure you're more of an early bird.
Yeah, but I teach in Central Time, so I don't start until 8:30.
Yeah, let's talk about your. So you're teaching. So you have a certain thing now, but I guess you said you were in Effingham for 1 year.
Yeah,
and then what happened after that? I think you were teaching in school downtown, right?
Oh, I took a 5-year break from teaching. Okay. I had a really traumatic year teaching in Rincon.
What age was that?
I was teaching middle school chorus and general music.
And we were talking about that middle schooler. It's a hard age. It was as a girl, it's a hard age to live through.
I'm such a people pleaser, and I want everybody to like me. And it's they're in such a developmental frontal lobe dip that it's it's not you.
Were they
It's
just
totally
were
them.
they just mean? They were just mean.
They're just judgy, you know, and they just like, because they're trying to cover up their own insecurity.
Yeah.
And I wasn't mature. My frontal lobe wasn't even fully developed enough to understand that at the time. And I was just like, I just want them to like me. And it really truly was just like kind of a cultural clash with me, like being a very like city liberal person and being very rural and conservative. It was just like a huge cultural clash. And I came behind a veteran teacher and they expected the same level of work.
Yeah. And
From
you were your
a-
very first year of teaching.
And I was tired like last minute. Like I was like just doing, and you know, like my 6th and 7th grade parents and students loved me. The 8th grade parents were like, it was their last year's, too high of expectations, too much perfectionism, which is a bad. And so I felt pretty damaged and was like, the lovely Ken Hudlow, who used to be the arts coordinator for Chatham County, he was trying to get me to come teach here. And I was like, I need a break.
Yeah. I
I did a couple interviews and I was like, no, it's too triggering. I need a break. I became a paralegal for a little bit, or like a legal secretary, for people who are my friends to this day. Like lovely. It was such a healing time. When I worked for Brandon, Cersei and Smith, it was a really healing time. But then I realized I missed the arts, so I worked at cultural fairs. You know, I went there because I really wanted to work in the arts and learn about arts administration because I thought that was going to be my career path.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to like
Well, it's a great city for that.
get into grant writing. Yeah, I really thought, and I worked with Eileen Baker, who I just saw for the first time last night in a long time.
Oh, that's nice.
She taught me so much and was so encouraging of me, and she encouraged me to take a job with the Savannah Philharmonic as like a interim development and marketing coordinator.
Okay.
And I didn't have such a great time then. It was a really weird season of a lot of transition for them.
Yeah.
And
they've had a lot of directors change, right? I know in the recent years.
I think we
had a
have
lot
3
of
directors
changes.
in that one season. It was kind of wild, and so there's a lot of instability, which is not something that is great for me, especially when I was trying to learn a lot about a lot of things. And but Garrison called me, and the lady who had my job before me, Kelly Burke, amazing educator, she called me like 3 times and was like, please just come interview. We need an elementary music teacher in the middle of the year. It has to be a vocalist.
And this is an elementary school downtown, right?
Elementary, middle school. Yeah, the art school, Garrison School for the Arts.
Cool.
And I was like...
Is this like the feeder school to Savannah Arts Academy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
But yeah, I thought I would never teach elementary. It's like there's such a stigma in the music education world about like teaching elementary, of like being like you couldn't hack it as a choir director or a band director, so you're teaching
because you're teaching just basic things.
But I fell madly in love with it because it's a lot of folk songs. It's, you know, teaching music of an older generation to the next generation.
Yeah, that's nice.
And
well, the thing is, I can see that, and I could probably see in art maybe the older of kids that you're teaching that seems more rarefied than little. But like, you're not going to get adults or high schoolers who are wanting to learn art or music unless they had really good experiences as elementary kids.
When I don't really believe tone deafness exists unless you have a cognitive or an audit or a hearing, disability, and so it's just something like. So when adults are like, I can't sing, I'm tone deaf, I'm like, you just had a bad elementary music teacher, most likely.
Yeah.
Like tone deafness does exist in these other, but I always think how sad that you didn't have a elementary teacher that got you to sing, to love your voice, so that you could sing for the rest of your life. I think people still can learn to sing even in adulthood.
I can also see you just holding a workshop just for adults, being like,
oh,
do you think you're tone deaf?
I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
So I have a special, like, you kind of sell your soul to a cult, to a music teaching cult. When you teach elementary, there's Dalcroze, there's Orff, and there's Kodai. These are like the school.
Basically?
No, they're just schools of thought.
Okay.
I jokingly call them cults, but like, it's like a school of thought, and you can go to do multiple.
Okay.
And John Tisbert, who, was my co-teacher, he taught the middle school choir. He was such a huge mentor to me, and he encouraged me to get my Kodai levels. And so I did. I got all 3 of them. And that was what I kind of sold my soul to. And that, I think in that technique of teaching elementary music, which is really based on folk music, a lot of singing, teaching intervals that match, like teaching music in a way that cognitively matches a child's cognitive and physical development. I think that adults could do the same. Like, I'm like, I could do the same thing I do with kids with adults.
They need to just go back to
and they would become better singers. Yeah. I fully believe.
And everybody loves sitting in a group singing folk songs.
Oh yeah, well I was teaching a class called ukuleles for a while. That was like women, like adult women coming and playing ukulele. And I would be like, okay, I know it sounds silly, but I believe in kinesthetic learning, so you're going to sing while you play. I'm like, it's just going to connect things in your brain. Just trust me on it.
Yeah.
And I would get women to like sing. They're like, I'm a terrible singer. I'm like, just sing quietly to yourself. And by the end, they were like singing nice and loud and proud. They're like, I'm a better singer through this. I'm like, yeah, because it's based on the Kodai method. And you're singing, you're singing small intervals, and the intervals get bigger, and you're singing simple things and the more complicated things later. And
it's an established practice of
exactly.
Is there a musical group anywhere called ukuleles? Because that
I haven't done it. I haven't done it in a while. It's just more, it's a lot of work, I gotta keep my house clean.
I just feel like there's not a band already called that.
I'm sure I should have
imagine the cute
copyrighted
t-shirts and logos. And
I know. I should have copyrighted it long ago, but here we go.
When did you? So at what point? You perform around town a lot. Were you doing that this whole time, or were you just teaching and then gradually you started performing?
I was in a jazz band for a little bit. A long time ago with Russell Watkins, and I had always been like a big country, like bluegrass folk music lover. I have a very, and I think people always think that's all I listen to, and it's like such a small part of who I am.
Did your family listen to a lot of country growing up?
No, my uncle was really into John Prine and rock and roll, and my sister was really into like 90s country. And she's my older sister, so I looked up to her. So I loved 90s country. I think just being in music school, you learn about so much different kinds of music.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was really big, I was an emo kid, but I was also a really big indie rock, indie folk kid, And there's kind of a fine line from, like, especially like your punk to like, the punk to Americana train is like a very short ride.
Oh, okay.
And so,
I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah. I mean, look at Igor Fixman, like punk musician, now like, the king of Western wear in Savannah, and our best pedal steel player, It's a very short train. Because it's a lot of storytelling and emotions and, But yeah, so I'd always really loved it. And I guess there was like one point when I just got more into it, and I started making more friends who were, gigging bluegrass or folk or country musicians.
Yeah.
Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy for feeling so blue.
Like, it just started becoming more part of my life, where I was like making music with those people or going to their shows and slowly overcoming my fear of like, oh, I could do that. But it's such a strange thing. I was talking about this with somebody last night. When Savannah's a really bad town for, if people think this is all you can do, you're only going to get those opportunities. Like, you get put in a box and you don't really get to exist outside of that box. So for forever, the only box I got to live in was opera.
Okay.
And then I made it into the musical theater box, and that's all people could think I could do.
Yeah.
From that box, I could get into the jazz box because of the Great American Songbook. It's like, well, she does musical theater. She could maybe do jazz. and it's like I had to like keep proving, like take little baby steps to prove people I could do other things. Like I love indie rock. Like that's a huge, like the majority of the music I go and see is actually indie rock.
Yeah.
I would love to be in an indie rock band. Electronica, like indie pop. I would love to do that. But nobody would actually probably think I could do those things because all they think I can do is country. Like, so it's like you get like put in these little boxes here, and it's like I understand that I'm good at like marketing myself to certain things. Yeah. But
you also, I will say, and I wanted to talk about this anyway, but you're like, your clothing, even in your days off, and like your hair, and you have like a cool like Dolly Parton cosplay thing going on, just in general.
Big hair,
So you're like, I mean, costume wise, you're really leaning into. You look great. Yeah. Like at any moment that I've ever run into you out, you look like you could go up on stage and sing country. So
like always ready, just in case.
You're always ready.
No, I think like I'm big on like there's like the big three. You do your hair, your makeup, your clothes. I don't like to do makeup. No, I rarely wear makeup. Yeah. It's just like my least favorite thing.
What is your hairstyle? What is it called?
I guess it's called a shag or a wolf.
It's like Farrah Fawcett-y.
Yeah, it's a shag. Yeah. And so that's like my current choice. For forever I had a side part, and I thought like I couldn't leave the side part, but I wanted a shag so bad.
That's very cute.
And so I just finally...
And then you have all these great dresses that are very vintagey.
Yeah. That comes from going to arts high school. Like I had terrible style when I was a ballroom dancer. The ballroom world, like back then, like it was so cheesy. And I was going to Catholic school, and I didn't know how to like dress because I wore a uniform all day. Yeah. And so when I went to arts high school, I was like really heavily influenced by my, all of my classmates. And we would go to the thrift store on early release Wednesdays, and you'd have like $20. And it was the cheapest thrift store that was near our school. And you would buy anything you could buy for $20, and then you would go get coffee afterwards. And it was like the cool thing to do. Yeah. And I became a clothing hoarder from that, and acquired a lot of clothing and a lot of style from that part. And so I've just always been into vintage clothes because I was poor. And it was like a good way of like looking like $1 million without spending $1 million. And that's kind of, I've just been running on that ever since.
I love it. You have a few different Instagram accounts, and one of your offshoots is called Miss Madson's Magical Music. Is this like your alter ego of outside of your day teaching, that you do these other teaching workshops and things like that? Is that what this is?
So I guess during the pandemic, one of my biggest dreams is to have a kids like TV show, like music TV show, like Mr. Rogers or
I love that for you.
I like have always wanted, because I have such like a teacher personality, and I like nobody can see what I'm wearing now, and I'm wearing like a vintage dress, and like because I even working virtually, I still dress up every day because it's my Miss Madson costume, and so I just have such a particular way of like trying to be this like Mary Poppins, like talking to kids in a way where like they feel total ownership of their of their bodies, and their emotions and things like that, their voice, feeling good about themselves, because it's such a huge part of like being a musician too. And during the pandemic, when everything kind of went down, I was genuinely scared that my job would get cut. I was like, what? I have the least important job of the arts department at Garrison. Like, other people could come and do my job and I could be gone. So it's like, how am I going to be the most visible person during the pandemic so that I look important? And also, I was so worried about the emotional well-being of my students at the same time. And so I was living with my ex, Chris Trolson, who's, he started a radio station at the Birthplace of Country Music Museum. He's got a PBS, like old-time radio show there too. He's in a band. Fantastic multi-instrumentalist and singer. And so we were like, let's just do like sing-alongs for the kids. We made a video actually for Savannah Music Festival for their Musical Explorers project for St. Patrick's Day. Okay. And in like the early days, we did that first, and we had so much fun doing it. I was like, let's just do sing-alongs for the kids every week. So we did like a different themed sing-along, and he's also went to art school, so he's a fantastic illustrator, and he like made my logo. He drew my logo, And we started to, and he wanted to play banjo, like get better at playing banjo. So it was like an excuse, like a safe space for him to practice banjo. And like, it was just a way to connect with the kids. It was very interactive. So that was kind of how it's like Miss Madson's Magical Music started. I had already been workshopping with Natasha Drina, like the idea of doing a TV show. And I like knew I wanted it to be called Miss Madson's Magical Music. And then like the pandemic happened. Like I'd been like actively talking to people creatively, like how I could make this happen.
And now it's like this perfect storm time.
So so then it just kind of happened as a sing-along.
If people now like want their kids to experience these sing-along videos, are they on your Instagram site? Are they on YouTube or something?
They're on YouTube, and I think I have a link tree on there to like take you to them.
So like you can find all these old sing-alongs.
And they're pretty lo-fi. Like I'm like, man, we really should have invested more. Like, you know, should have gotten better internet. We should have had a better like lighting. We could have done a way better job at these.
Well, it was the pandemic,
right? I'm also working full time still. You know, like trying to do all that stuff because I did them years later because I did them for the entire hybrid year at Garrison, and then I went to work in Knox County at the Knox County Virtual Schools. So I did them that entire year then too. Yeah. But I'll still do them, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but the library, I'll do one this summer for the library, you know, and I'll do it if people ask, you know. Okay, great. Recently, you're still, like, every so often putting out a new sing-along? Yeah, like, I'll just do, no, like, I'll do them live. Okay. Like, in front of people. Got it. I did my first one in a long time recently for a former student of mine from Effingham County, my friend Allie Rowe. Her daughter is going through a health crisis, and so we did a fundraiser for her, and I was just like, oh, this is a kid thing. I was like, do you guys want to sing along? I'll do a sing along. It was my first one in a while, and I was like, whew, I'm like out of practice. but yeah, it's just like a fun thing. And then I kind of like I lost my job at Knox County just because the school, like, they cut 40% of the teachers. I mean, every year they cut 40% of the teachers there. And I was like, I guess I'll just start my own business. And that was kind of my business for a while. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to lump all of my teaching things under this, you know? Like, it was just an easy place. So now you have them archived in this account. So if somebody came to you and were like, hey, kid, we got this opportunity for you to... Yeah, you have your own variety show. Like, this is where... Oh, yeah, they could... This is your portfolio, basically. They could say my porfolio. It's not my proudest moment. For you. I love that. I mean, it's still, like, truly a dream. I would love it. Like, we really wanted to do, like, a Savannah-centered show. And it'd be, like, a set that looked like, you know... like a Pee-wee version of Savannah, downtown Savannah house, you know? Like, it was, like, a huge dream. But it's that stuff's a lot of work, and it's hard to work full time. I would love a Pee-wee's Playhouse that we can all go through for kids and adults. Yeah. For kids of all ages. Yeah. I want to, like, the way at Halloween time, how there's, like, these various different haunted houses to go through that are really elaborate and scary and awesome. I want like a Pee-wee. Somebody call house. Wayne White and make this happen. Yeah. Do you know there's this little business kind of near me where there's a woman who's like a puppeteer, and it's called Saw the Wheel. Oh, and she's put on performances. I haven't. This business near me. I went to see. Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name right now. But I went and saw one puppeteer there who was unbelievable. He did a show there. And it was so artistic. I've seen a show in the little parking lot behind this shop near me. So cool. There was sort of I don't know how to call it, a backdrop, and then people like above it with literal puppeteering, like marionettes. Yeah, amazing. I've gotten super into puppets this year, and I think it was like the thought of doing a show. I went to Angela Beasley's place and like met her, and like you know, she showed me how she made the puppets, because I was like, I want puppets in my show. Yeah. And like that was how I got into puppetry, was from Angela Beasley. There's a lot of crossover. I feel like with your interest, there's a lot of art forms converging together. If you're an elementary music teacher, you better be good at puppetry, because like you have to build a world of storytelling to introduce songs to kids and keep them interested. Yeah. Like I had a horse that was like a spirit, you know, like the horse spirit. It was like a puppet of him. Okay. And one of my students named him Francisco the Italian Stallion, and he would teach all the Italian words to the kids, you know. And like when I had to teach about opera, I grabbed like a stick horse and named and made it a female horse, and I was like told the story of the opera using the horses. Like that's how kids are going to be engaged, you know. Like they're invested and they believe in those puppets. Like we've got Froggy and Mousy. They're married. Mousy's best friend is Barry the bear, and like they ask how's Barry's vacation doing? Yeah. You know, like they're fully invested.
Yeah,
those are real characters.
It needs to be a little performance in person. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like a TV show happening in real life to them.
Yeah.
You know.
That's really the point. When did you play the ukulele? How many instruments do you play?
I rarely call myself an instrumentalist because I don't think I'm like phenomenal at any instrument. Part of it is like I've struggled with, I guess, what is like my wrist, my left wrist. I have a lot of issues with it, and it could actually be rheumatoid arthritis. We're going to find out soon. No. We're actually doing the blood test for that right now. But so like out of fatigue, I just like never wanted to practice, like out of pain, literal pain. And so, and also just like it not being something I was really great at, like I just cognitively was like not super suited for it. And I had to like force myself to do it and find the instruments that felt good. And I got into ukulele because it was like small and it was like approachable and less intimidating. And one of the reasons why I like teaching ukulele is because I feel like it's more, you know, it's like definitely less intimidating than a 6-string guitar. You know, anyone can pick up a ukulele and play a couple chords, you know, pretty quickly, which is really nice.
And then it's easy, if you're small, it's easy to just hold it up.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have a strap, right? You're just holding it with your other...
Yeah, I mean, I have a strap, I guess. But, you know, you don't have to, no.
Yeah.
So, like, that part's really nice. It's a very approachable instrument. And, but then... And I actually played guitar before ukulele. It was just really bad. And I would always plateau to the same place and I couldn't make it. And then eventually I picked up guitar again and I was like, okay. Like I would buy like different kinds. I'd be like buying banjo ukes just to feel like a little variety in my life, you know, a little spice.
Like a hoarder of
And then I was like, okay, I started playing like lap dulcimer or auto harp, like anything that was like more approachable and easy. And I finally scaffolded my way into being like, okay, I have to just play guitar. And I still don't consider myself a guitarist, but Scott Stanton, I saw him this weekend and he said the nicest thing to me. He was like, years ago, I asked you about if you played guitar, you know, like when you were writing songs or whatever, and you're like, no, I'm never going to be a guitarist. Like I can't play guitar. And he was like, and then I watched you, like, do a whole show where you played guitar the entire time. And he was like, see? You can do it. And it was just, like, emotional readiness. Right. Or Andrew's a huge part of, like, helping me feel comfortable in that way.
Yeah, so when did Andy and Mandy start?
I was renting props from Samita for... Fiddler on the Roof, I think, when I directed that at Garrison with John Tisbert. And that was a really big production because we had Velvet Caravan as like our side orchestra in addition to like a full orchestra. And it was really cool.
Yeah. And if people don't know them, they were like gypsy jazz?
Yeah, they're a huge gypsy jazz band.
I love Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah, and it was really, Ricardo was our fiddler. It was amazing. It was so cool. And so I went to go like rent props from them, but Samita didn't meet me. Andrew met me, and I was wearing Pointer brand, and which is like a workwear out of Bristol, Tennessee, which is like a really sacred workwear to both of us because he's from Nashville, and I was like kind of living part-time in Johnson City, you know, East Tennessee at the time. And then we just got to talking. We had all these common friends. And, like, we're at the shop and we're supposed to meet for, like, 15 minutes. And we're, like, there talking for hours. Yeah. And I would go over to his house on the east side and, like, hang out. And we would talk. And I was like, I've written some songs and I don't know what to do with them. And I played them all for him. And he was really nice about it because I was just, like, playing it on uke. Because I was just too scared to play guitar in front of him and stuff. And, like... You know, like, we've both just emotionally helped each other grow a lot through a lot of things. It's like we became like a safe space, you know, for certain things for each other. And one day I just looked at him and I said, I really want to do a show, a Christmas country show, and it's called Andy and Mandy's Hard Candy Christmas. And he was like, done.
And this is in Nashville you guys started?
No, this was here. It was here.
Okay.
It was like we did it 3 or 4 years ago. And I just like named it well. And that was all it took. And he was like, okay, great. Yeah, we're going to do that. And that was like, I think our first show we ever did together.
What does the Hard Candy signify?
Well, Hard Candy Christmas is a song by Dolly Parton.
Okay.
And so I was like, there's all these great country Christmas songs and you can only sing them at Christmas time. And I was like, I want a reason to sing, like, if we make it through December and Hard Candy Christmas. Yeah. So I created this show. Yeah. I originally floated it to Damon Mylan and from Damon and the Shit Kickers, and he's like, I don't want to learn all those songs, you know, like, really? And that's just his style. He's busy. Oh my gosh. He doesn't want to take the time to do that. But Andrew, like, that's what Andrew does, is like learn a bunch of stuff quickly and just play it, you know? And like, he taught me a lot of like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. And like training myself to being like, he completely rewired my brain.
So if Dolly Parton is sort of your like, like
icon,
ego, is there a male country singer that he's kind of modeled after?
I don't know.
I don't know classic country enough to know this, so I'm just curious.
I can't answer that for him, no.
Okay.
You know, because some people are probably like, his grandpa, Rod Sovine, who was like a famous country singer in like the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Okay.
But he would not say that.
I'm always curious how people can find each other and have this, because you guys are like a performance art duo as well, where, you know, the costumes and like you said, the banter that you do on stage. And it's funny because, you know, like as a visual artist, it's usually you're just a lone wolf and you're on your own thing. And it's like very, very rare where there are artists who are famously a duo. Like there's this famous British duo, Gilbert and George, and they act as one person, they do their art together. But for music, you have, like, unless you're a solo person, you have to find someone else who has this.
For me, it's
so interesting.
Andrew's my security blanket, you know, like, because I just don't think I'm good enough on my own to like, and I don't want people to have a different vision of who I am, you know, of like, I don't really want to do a bad job and people be like, ugh, Mandy's not that good. Oh. But if I do things with Andrew, like, he's always going to be there to like, you know, catch me when I fall. Like when, like, we'll perform, like we did a show, and during the first set, you know, during our Heartbreak Happy Hour, my wrist locked up and I was like, I have to stop playing. And I can do that because Andrew's like, okay, that's fine. He makes like, Dylan, and Jalen are enough sound where I don't have to even worry. Yeah. And I can just sit and sing sometimes. And so, I would love to be a soloist, but I'm just not there yet, you know? And
well, it sounds like if your wrist, I mean, if it's that problematic for you, you need like another musician there at least to provide something.
It like allows less pressure, and also could be psychosomatic. That could be my new psychosomatic thing. Possibly, 100%. After everything I went through with my voice. And so, but like having him there means it's just less pressure, and I can just be like, okay, you know what? I just want to tell a story right now. So let me just put the instrument down and sing. Yeah. And I've done that. I've done a show where I plan to play the whole show, and then like after the first set, be like, you know what? I don't want to play anymore. I don't feel like taking my guitar off and on. I'm just going to let Andrew play, and it's totally fine.
It's fine, yeah. It seems like you guys, Christmas and Valentine's are like, you guys is too big.
It's just like a funny...
Your holidays.
It's just like a funny, I don't know, like, it was just easy to market. I wanted to create a vibe for those holidays. I wanted a place for people who were sad at Valentine's Day to have a place to go and laugh. You know, and like make fun of like being single on Valentine's Day.
Is it Over Yonder?
Yeah.
You did it? Okay.
And then like Christmas, I was like, there should be a really good country Christmas show, like, where it's like real like hokey, and I just like want to create a vibe. Like I think of those shows as parties, and I'm just literally hosting a party. Yeah. And so like when like even at the last Heartbreak Happy Hour we did, I was like, I had like custom condoms that I called Andy and Mandy's Handy Dandy Candy Wrapper. Like Andrew came up with that.
Where did you get those made?
I don't know, customcondoms.com or something. But yeah, like I designed the logo, and I was just like, please just buy these things because it just funds the party. Like, we don't really I make sure the musicians get paid. I don't really make any money
all
from this.
All musicians talk about that now that there's not like CDs to sell. It still is all about whatever merch you can have.
Yeah, so. Like, just buy this ridiculous merch because it's a party. Like, you're just, I'm like, this is the tip for us. Like, you're just here to be part of this weird party that I've created, and that vibe. Yeah,
of course. You want to talk about what do you have coming up that we can keep an eye out for?
Honestly, I don't have, part of when I was living in Nashville, working there for Quaver Music, which is like the world's largest music education website in the world. And I was driving back and forth to Nashville and Savannah, and it was so chaotic that I just wanted to take some time. And I was like also playing here, and like, it was so much. I was just like, I'm just letting kind of the universe depict some things. But I am working on my solo stuff. And Andrew and I are going to start recording some of that. Like, we're in the process of like talking through everything and arranging everything, and probably recording that this summer.
Very
just
cool.
because it's hard to book without recordings and things, and he and I only have a couple recordings. Yeah. So we're really trying to work on building that stuff so that we can play more.
I love that. Yeah, I saw in one of your link trees, there's a Bandcamp site, and you have an original called Holiday Heartbreaker.
Yes.
People can listen to that and they can purchase it for $1.
Yes, they can purchase it for however much they want to pay for it.
I hope you get tens and tens of dollars.
That's my Christmas. That's my sassy Christmas, like slightly raunchy,
Yeah. That'll be a good teaser for what you're
every year for Andy Mandy's Hard Candy Christmas. I'm gonna try to write an original, and so next year I'll do a slow one maybe, and we'll put out little vinyl that you can, vinyl singles you can buy. So
great.
I'm trying to work on that every year, and it's just like trying not to do too much at once. I try to scaffold my way to getting the things I want, and that's so And I have a song called "You Done Seen My Ding Dong," and it's Unexcited State about pinkies. I wrote it I started writing after a Willie Nelson show, because somebody walked in on somebody in the bathroom at Pinky's, and the door was open, and they
so
said that,
funny.
and I went outside and I like recorded it and sang it, and then wrote the
guy
song.
Said that?
Yeah, and he was like, well, I've just done seen his ding dong, and it's Unexcited State. It's my friend Greg Riddick.
What an incredible line.
Yeah, and so I went outside, I wrote that song, and I years later finished it, and Andrew and I perform it. I'm like, we need to record this so that it's like out there, so people can see the vibe of what Andy and Mandy is. So anything like weird and funny, ridiculous, is ridiculous. Like Andy and Mandy. Anything really serious is Mandy Madson, and that's just kind of how it is now.
If you could meet Dolly Parton, what would you want to say?
I have seen her before. I saw her on my birthday, my 29th birthday at Dollywood. She was there. I think if I saw her, I don't know. I'd ask her who her wig maker was. No, I don't know. That's too big of a question. I don't know what I would ask her. It's too much pressure.
Dolly listens to this, so you're speaking to her right now.
Oh, gosh. Just that she is really a pure and wonderful human, and we really needed her in this world. Yeah. And I hope she knows what an impact she's made.
I love how it's come out that she is this amazing humanitarian.
Yeah, she is.
Does great things.
I just bought a really beautiful piece from Scott Stanton with a quote from her on it.
Well, Mandy, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure talking to you. This has been amazing.
Thanks for having me, Tamara.
Of course.
This has been a treat. I really appreciate it.
Everyone, this has been Mandy Madson, and this is Tamara Garvey with Arts on the Air. Thank you.